Lech Wałęsa stands as one of the most emblematic political figures of the late 20th century, a man whose courage, charisma, and determination helped to dismantle one of the world's most entrenched authoritarian systems. Born into a modest family in 1943 in Popowo, Poland, Wałęsa's journey from shipyard electrician to Nobel Peace Prize laureate and ultimately the first freely elected president of post-communist Poland is a story of remarkable personal strength and political significance. His role in the Solidarity movement not only transformed Poland but also contributed decisively to the fall of communism throughout Eastern Europe. Early life and formative years. Lech Wałęsa's origins played a crucial role in shaping his worldview. Growing up in a working-class environment in a country devastated by war, he experienced both the hardships of communist rule and the strong cultural influence of Poland's Catholic tradition. After completing his vocational training, he began working in the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk. The industrial environment became his political awakening. It exposed him to the harsh realities of state socialism, low wages, lack of freedom, humiliating work conditions, and the repression of workers' rights. Unlike many intellectual leaders associated with anti-communist resistance in other nations, Wałęsa rose directly from the industrial proletariat, which gave him immense credibility among ordinary workers. His natural ability to connect with people and articulate their frustrations would later become one of Solidarity's greatest strengths. The 1970 protests and awakening of a leader. The first major turning point in Wałęsa's life occurred in December 1970, when protests erupted in northern Poland after the government abruptly raised food prices. Workers in Gdansk, Gdynia, and Szczecin went on strike. The regime responded with brutal force, deploying the army and secret police. Dozens of people were killed. Wałęsa, who participated in the strikes, witnessed firsthand the lethal extent of state violence. The events left a deep mark on him. Shortly afterwards, Wałęsa was fired for his activism and spent years under constant surveillance. Yet the repression only strengthened his resolve. During the 1970s, he became increasingly involved with underground opposition networks, including the Workers' Defense Committee, KOR, which provided assistance to jailed and persecuted workers. The birth of Solidarity, a movement that changed history. The second dramatic turning point occurred in August 1980, when a wave of strikes swept across Poland after another government hike in food prices. At the Lenin shipyard, workers initiated a peaceful occupation strike led by Wałęsa, who famously climbed over the shipyard wall to join them after having been barred from entering by authorities. His leadership proved decisive. Charismatic, bold, and capable of inspiring workers, Wałęsa led negotiations with government representatives. On August 31, 1980, he signed the Gdansk Agreement, which granted workers the unprecedented right to form an independent trade union. This was the birth of Solidarity, Solidarność, the first free trade union in the entire communist bloc. Solidarity quickly evolved from a labor movement into a massive social force. Within months, it had gathered nearly 10 million members, about one-third of the entire adult population of Poland. It united workers, intellectuals, farmers, clergy, and students. It was not merely a union, it was a nationwide democratic movement rooted in the Polish tradition of popular resistance. Wałęsa became its undisputed leader. His image, modest moustache, calm confidence, and the ever-visible Catholic icon of the Black Madonna pinned to his lapel, became a symbol of peaceful defiance. Martial law and international recognition. The communist regime, feeling threatened by Solidarity's rapid growth, declared martial law on December 13, 1981, under General Wojciech Jaruzelski. Thousands of opposition activists were imprisoned, and Solidarity was outlawed. Wałęsa himself was detained for nearly a year. However, martial law failed to crush the movement. Solidarity survived underground, supported by a vast network of activists and by international support, particularly from the Catholic Church under Pope John Paul II, Western governments, and global trade unions. In 1983, Wałęsa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, an acknowledgement of Solidarity's non-violent struggle for freedom and workers' rights. Fearing he might not be allowed to return to Poland, Wałęsa sent his wife Danuta to Oslo to accept the prize on his behalf. This moment symbolized both the regime's cruelty and Wałęsa's strength. The road to the Round Table negotiations. The second half of the 1980s saw a gradual weakening of communist power across Eastern Europe. Economic decline, growing unrest, and the reforms introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev in the Soviet Union created an unprecedented opening. Recognizing that force alone could not contain the crisis, the Polish government agreed to negotiate with the opposition. The Round Table talks between government officials and Solidarity representatives began in early 1989. Wałęsa played a central role. The negotiations were historic, they marked the first peaceful transition from communist rule in the region. The agreements legalized solidarity and paved the way for partially free elections. Victory at the ballot box and the fall of communism. The elections of June 4, 1989, became a political earthquake. Solidarity candidates won nearly every seat they were allowed to contest. Within months, Poland formed the first non-communist government in the entire Soviet bloc under Prime Minister Tadeusz Mazowiecki. The domino effect spread rapidly across Eastern Europe. Within a year, the Berlin Wall fell, and communist regimes collapsed in Czechoslovakia, Hungary, East Germany, and eventually the Soviet Union itself. Wałęsa's leadership was a crucial catalyst in this transformation. His ability to unify workers and intellectuals, negotiate effectively, and maintain international support made him a pivotal figure in ending the Cold War division of Europe. President of Poland, achievements and controversies. In 1990, Wałęsa won Poland's first direct presidential election. As president, he faced the immense challenge of transitioning the country from a centrally planned economy to a market-based system. His tenure was marked by economic reforms that opened the Polish economy to global markets, political turbulence, including conflicts with parliament and former allies, a new constitution, and efforts to integrate Poland into NATO and the European community. Though respected internationally, at home his presidency became more polarizing. His impulsive leadership style, suspicion toward political opponents, and alleged collaboration with communist secret services, claims he vehemently denied, generated controversy. He lost the 1995 election to Aleksander Kwaśniewski, marking the end of his formal political influence, although he remained a respected symbol of Poland's democratic transformation. Legacy, a giant of freedom. Lech Wałęsa's legacy transcends national borders. His achievements include leading the first successful mass democratic movement in Soviet-controlled Eastern Europe, laying the foundation for Poland's democratic and economic transformation, contributing to the collapse of communism throughout the region, and embodying the power of peaceful resistance. Despite controversies surrounding later years of his career, there is no doubt that Wałęsa played a decisive role in reshaping the political map of Europe. He stands among the great historical figures of the 20th century, proof that courage, solidarity, and perseverance can change the course of history.